they come here to protest against anti-war, so presumably anti-violence. The only way I can describe them is a bunch of hypocrites. Their conduct today was absolutely appalling. As far as the police involvement there, I couldn't be prouder of my members there. The police officers on the ground were subjected to a whole range of vitriol, to abuse. They were assaulted, they were pushed, they were shoved, they had bottles thrown at them, they had balloons thrown at them that had different liquids in them. We've had analysis that shows some type of low-level acid that caused irritants to the police was used. A whole range of different attacks on my police officers. We have always said we are comfortable for people to come and protest peacefully. That wasn't the case today. The type of images that we saw on Spencer Street Bridge today, where protesters lit fires to bins. They were standing there in full-face balaclavas with ski masks on. There was no snow there. They only wore those for one reason, to avoid being subject to OC spray when they came with intent to provoke, to attack, to try and raise the awareness for their cause. So I've used the term hypocrites because we support peaceful protest and we facilitate that all the time. What we saw today was not peaceful protest. As I said, a number of my officers, they were attacked. We had 24 police officers from within Victoria and from our interstate contingent who've been treated for a range of different injuries, ranging from sprains, strains, a large number of irritants, as I said, from substances that were thrown at them, and they required decontamination, some of those, while we're still trying to establish what that actually was. We also saw a number of police horses targeted, and I do say targeted because I'm told a number were punched. The protesters did try and distract the horses, and there was some officers have said they actually had feces thrown at them. We're still trying to establish that to be the case, but we know horse manure was thrown at officers. This is the type of disgusting behaviour that we saw today from a group who are intent on confronting us. At this stage, fortunately, we don't believe any of our officers have significant injuries, although it's not insignificant when you've been pelted in the eye and you're treated for something in the eye, you've been hit in the head. I was down there around lunchtime today, spoke with dozens of officers who have been involved. They reported variously they'd been hit, one with a beer bottle, one had a full can of baked beans thrown at them. It was appalling behaviour. I know that from my point of view, we have now arrested, or at the last briefing I had, 39 protesters, and I'll call them protesters for lack of a better descriptor, but 39 criminals have been arrested for their conduct, for their confrontational conduct. They've been charged with a variety of offences ranging from assault police, hinder police, obstruct police, to generalised assault, to arson, to blocking roadways. We were forced to deploy some non-lethal munitions, which we did, and I am of the view that they were appropriately deployed and appropriate risk assessments were made during that deployment. We certainly saw between 1,000 to 2,000 people there. Variously, it's been estimated probably at around 1,200, but significant numbers. And as I said, the disappointing thing for us is that they came there clearly, and we knew this from intelligence. That's why we planned so well, that they came there with an intent to confront, and they did. From my point of view, I would simply urge this. If you wish to come and protest, do so peacefully. We will not tolerate criminal behaviour. We will take action, as we have done today. My police officers have my full support for the way they've conducted themselves. In a very short time ago, I had a briefing that I'm told has been produced by the Greens, calling for an independent inquiry into this and attacking the conduct of the police officers. All I can say is that's rubbish. We have conducted ourselves appropriately. We have conducted ourselves properly. I couldn't be prouder of the officers down there, and to see the way they used restraint when confronted by people intent on provoking violence and using violence. I was very proud of the way they did conduct themselves. I'm open to answer any questions.
You mentioned non-lethal munitions. Can you clarify what that means? Because we've heard of rubber bullets and people describing things like tear gas, but maybe that's inaccurate. What exactly was deployed by police and when?
We used foam baton rounds. The public often call them rubber bullets, but they're foam baton rounds, hard foam baton rounds. We've used these before. Our tactical police are trained in them. We used flash distraction devices, so noise and smoke. We also used a pava powder, which is like a oleoresin capsicum powder. It has the same sort of effect. It's deployed from a rubber gun. And they're deployed at the base of people. So they were all used because it was necessary. This group at one stage had nearly pushed over one of the fences that we had around the facility. And the way, as I said, my officers responded, the horses, the officers there on the beat, the interstate officers, our specialists and everything, tactical support from the airmen, it was an appropriate and great response.
You mentioned 24 police officers have been injured. Have any been taken to hospital? Have any had treatment? And are they going to miss work because of their injuries?
Yeah, I don't have the details at the moment as to whether they will miss work. We know that they were treated at the scene for various degrees of injuries. I'm told that none are serious at this stage, so I'm hopeful that none of them will miss work. But 24 officers in what is supposed to be a peaceful protest, I think that goes to reinforce why I've used the word hypocrites.
Have any of the protesters been remanded in custody so far?
Yeah, I don't know whether any of those protesters have been remanded. We will look at each of them on a singular issue. I mean, whether they're on any bails, the seriousness of the offences they've been involved in, but I'm not aware of whether any have been remanded. But for those who are granted bail, we are imposing conditions on them to make sure that they don't come back to the protest.
How concerning is the use? Sorry, how concerning is the use of acid, even if it's a low-lying acid, on officers? There seems to be an element of planning there.
Oh, there was an element of planning in this. I have no doubt about that. We have been saying for weeks that we know these numerous different issue-motivated groups, and not all of them, but numerous different ones within there, have been planning and have intended to come here to confront police, to try and heighten the publicity for their cause. When you're using a low-level acid, albeit even if it's only creating irritants and a rash or similar like that, that is appalling behaviour. It's behaviour that we will try and hold as many people to account for as we can.
And were you able, at the other end of the scale, were you able to get all the delegates in safely, and were any of the delegates going in to the conference hurt in any way or interfered with?
Our aim was to get all the delegates in and out of the conference safely, and that's why we appealed to people, just protest peacefully. That's what this is about. That didn't occur. I have not been briefed formally to that point that anyone has been assaulted coming in and out, but I have been advised anecdotally when I was down on the ground, as I said, around lunchtime, speaking to dozens of officers there. A number of them commented to me that there was potentially some confrontation occurring with some of the people going into the conference. I haven't been briefed of any assault occurring on this stage.
Are you expecting the same again tomorrow?
I hope not to be expecting the same tomorrow. I hope that some of these groups will go away from today and reflect on their conduct and think, if they're really trying to further a cause, if they're really anti-war, then they're anti-violence, and that this isn't the way that they're going to garner support. We will be prepared for any event for the duration of this this conference, this expo, but I hope it doesn't occur again tomorrow.
Do you know how many protesters were injured, and if any of them were taken to hospital?
I'm not aware of any protesters being taken to hospital, and I don't know whether any were injured.
The Treasurer said yesterday that an extra 15 million had been set aside to cover the cost of policing the event, but we've heard that it's costing more than that. Is that true? And will Victoria Police be billing the government for that total bill, whatever the cost is?
Well, if the Treasurer's given you figures, well then I would say they are true, but it's not for me to talk about how much we are being funded from the government. This is still very much an active operation and those figures can change. We will continue to obviously talk to government, and like any agency that expends funds, we will see whether or not we can be reimbursed for them.
How many police did you bring from, or did you request from interstate, and how long are they going to stay here for?
I won't give you the numbers of how many from interstate we did request. It's from Queensland, South Australia, New South Wales and the Australian Federal Police. We don't talk about numbers primarily because of tactical response, but they will be here for the duration, and some of those are frontline, some are public order response. We saw fantastic support from our New South Wales public order response colleagues. Some are bomb response specialists, a range of different expertise. As I think I said, the Australian Federal Police as well. So they will be here for the duration of the event and until everyone is bumped out on the Sunday.
If you can't give an exact number, can we say hundreds, thousands of officers, and what kind of assets? We saw helicopters, for example, and horses, anything else deployed?
I can give an exact number, but I'm not going to. But let's say it's well over 1,000 police. I won't speculate other than that. We obviously have our aerial support, we have the mounted branch, we have the public order response team. We have virtually every specialist that we can on the ground supporting, transport police, a whole range of it. This is a massive operation for Victoria Police. It's our biggest planned deployment since the World Economic Forum. I think that's 24 years ago.
Why weren't organisers and key stakeholders also responsible for ensuring additional security measures around the exhibition centre for the event?
The organisers and those responsible for the conference have been fantastic in working with us. We have been involved in emergency incident management team meetings along the way for many months now, at government, at local levels, with those from Melbourne Convention Centre, from those facilitating it, and they are jointly involved with us in preparing and ensuring we can provide as much security. That includes private security as well as police involved in the whole security overlay. So it's been very much a joined up approach.
And what effect does this have on policing in the rest of Melbourne and the rest of the state, if you've got so many tied up around the conference centre?
It does have an impact. We still have an ability to call on others if need be, but it makes it very tight. It means that some of those nice to do things, some of those community engagement things that we're involved in, some of those other aspects in the country areas, some administrative things, they will stop and cease for the duration of this event, because we have a standardised model where we can say, yes, we can stop those things without creating any risk to community safety, but it allows us to deploy and have extra surge here.
And is this the first time you've had to request interstate police to come and help you for an operation like this?
We have requested interstate police assistance in other operations. I can't nominate those off the top of my head, but it is a routine thing. We have a standard agreement with other police, and we also go and help other police in other jurisdictions as well in a range of different things. So it's not unusual, but we do call on their expertise as well. And obviously when you have specialists in certain areas, it's important to get that specialist expertise here.
And did you have any meetings with organisers of the demonstrations beforehand? Many demonstrations you do. Do you have meetings with them beforehand and did they agree to do certain things?
There wasn't any agreement from those who were from those, and I'm not going to name the group because I don't want to give them any kudos, from the group that was trying to organise, if you like, as the umbrella leader of this. There wasn't any agreement with them about the way they would conduct themselves. You are right, we do try and engage with all issue-motivated groups so we can set standards and agree to conduct so we can facilitate peaceful protest. That wasn't the case leading into this, and we've seen how it's unfolded.
Was it a small cohort that was violent today, or was it the majority of the protesters? What would you say?
I would say it was a fairly large cohort of those protesters, those demonstrators who were involved in the conduct that I've spoken about.
When you use rubber bullets and the flash devices, as a matter of course, do you have an investigation afterwards to detail whether it was necessary or not?
We don't have an investigation in relation to the use of the foam baton rounds or any of those other non-lethal crowd control munitions that I've spoken of, but we do have a review conducted every time we deploy them because we recognise that it is a significant departure from day-to-day policing, but necessary in certain circumstances. So there are reviews conducted internally, not investigation, but we need to make sure, and we continue to do so, that we're taking into account people's human rights, that we're complying with our policies and procedures.
Just on that note, are you looking into any perhaps unjustified force from police?
I've heard no mention of any unjustified force by the police other than the media release I've referred to already in this conference.
You mentioned that a lot of administrative duties understandably fell to the side today because of the sheer number of police that had to be pulled in for this. What was the impact on the ground in terms of community policing? Where did officers struggle in terms of whether there were stations that were unmanned or manned less than normal, or jobs that maybe couldn't be reached in certain areas, if any?
Yeah, I'm not told that there's a significant flow on to in terms that there's no community safety risk. And if I'm going from recollection, but I think there are a couple of police stations that had some limited counter closure because of the need to bring them in here. But I can assure you there has been no risk to community safety, normal community policing delivery as a result of our surge deployment of bring them in here.
Did the so-called umbrella group leading the organisation of the demonstrations today try to engage with police at all beforehand, or vice versa?
We continually try to reach out to, if we can, the group that, for lack of a better word, the umbrella group who was trying to lead this, didn't engage with us and wouldn't engage with us.
What happens tomorrow in terms of planning and preparation, and is there any community message for people who normally would go to that part of the CBD for work, should they stay away?
What happens tomorrow is we turn up again, the expo opens up, we facilitate peaceful and safe access for those who are attending to go about their business. If people come in to protest, I would urge them not to do, but if they do and they come in and they do so peacefully, happy days. But if they break the law, we will hold them to account. As for people coming into the area, I'll leave it for people to make their own decisions. We would like to hope that it'll be a peaceful protest if there is one at all, and that people are allowed to go about their business.
Are you aware if any members of the public who weren't involved in the demonstration were hurt in any way or caught up in the demonstration in any way?
No, I'm not aware of members of the public being caught up in the demonstration and or injured.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.